Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 368 of the Assorted Calibers podcast, the Second Amendment podcast. There's a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and with me tonight, no matter what she says, don't listen to her. She's all lies. She is the greatest hostess in the entire universe, Erin Paulette. How are you doing, Erin?
If they don't listen to me, then they either have to turn the podcast off or ignore everything I say.
See, there you go, injecting a little too much logic into my chicanery.
And if everything I say is a lie, then, I have it, I just can't make it work. My ADHD is between the new dog, the time change, and, brain over 50. I'm having a lot of problems this week. And I think it's ADHD. I don't know. It might just be my brain getting older, but just the stuff that I used to be able to do, I can't do anymore. And it's really screamingly frustrating. So that's how I'm doing. Tilly is very cute, and she's learning. We are learning her language as much as she is learning ours, and she didn't pee or poop in the house today, which is good.
That's really good.
Yeah. I don't know if I said this before, but I have a feeling she's never lived in a house before. The original owner surrendered her, and I think she was kept outside. She's kind of feral, not like in a bad way, but just... This is clearly a dog that's seen basically no discipline at all, and it's only the fact that she's so sweet-natured that she's adoptable. Because, when she gets wild, when she has her Tilly tantrums, as I call her, she can be quite rambunctious and sometimes destructive. And so we've got to teach her, no, don't bite the humans. It's not like aggressive, but... The play bite that just bites a little too deep hasn't drawn blood yet, but she's made us yelp more than a few times. And so, we figured she was either kept outside, and then, of course, when she was at the rescue, she was in an indoor kennel, and, dogs would just pee and poop right there. And so I think it was just a foreign concept for her to realize, okay, this is a big kennel that I'm in, but I can't pee and poop in it. I have to ask to go outside. And so, we are working on it. But, she's an absolute cuddle bug, and she's discovered sleeping on the bed now. And so now at night, she's got to jump up on the bed with me, and she cuddles up right against my ribs. And so it's so nice to have a soft, warm little fur ball curled up next to me. It's very relaxing.
And unlike Erin Paulette, she doesn't take her half of the bed out of the middle.
Well, she's a very small dog, so even if she did, there'd still be a lot of space.
Yeah. I just remember just some of the times when like my daughter desperately needed a nap, and is one of those like, here, do you want to take it? Do you want to lay down on Dad's bed, and then lay down? And I'm friggin' exhausted at that point in time too. So I would so I'd be taking a nap too. But boy, tiny children, they can be awfully large when they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
As a friend of mine one time said, when we both had kids that were in cribs at the time, like, they move around like a starfish. Yeah, just lay on their back and just kind of spin. Lay them down one way, come back an hour later, and they're completely the opposite direction, but still the same orientation.
So yeah, I'm really frustrated with my inability to focus and communicate. and stuff like that. And so this probably isn't going to be a good podcast for me. I'm going to try my best, but I'm just saying set your expectations low, folks, because I'm here, and I think that's the best it's going to be. How about you, Weer'd?
I'm also fairly grumpy. Just my daughter's been in extra pain, extra teenagery, even though she's only 12. We were talking a little earlier, like, no, this is firm teenager activity going on. And my wife's back up in Maine helping out her mom. She's still needing some help with stuff, and so just everything's just jumbled. We have mice in the house, and for the first time in the history of ever, we have mice in the house, and I'm not able to catch them. I literally saw one run into one of our radiators, and so I just light out a row of glue traps. I'm resorting to glue traps. This is how bad it's getting. I don't know what they're eating. They're in here. And they're pooping, but I don't know what's making the poop. They're the most wily mice I have ever encountered, and I almost stomped the life out of one in the kitchen just before the show started. So yeah, that's.
So I have a question here, and I do know how radiators work, but how does a mice run into the radiator?
It's an in-wall. This specific one's an in-wall one, so it is the actual coils are set into the cavity of the wall, and there's a metal grate on the surface of the wall. And I assume that they're then once they get in there, they're running down the steam pipe. I suspect they're hanging out in the subfloor.
Okay, so just to be pedantic here, the mouse isn't actually crawling inside the radiator, it's crawling inside the radiator compartment and then getting behind the walls.
Correct.
Okay. Because, I mean, you said it climbed into the radiator, and I'm going, I don't think that's possible.
I mean, I wish it was, because then they'd get cooked with steam, and then the problem would be solved. But no. No, that's one of the many places. They're that, and I think they're hanging out behind the cabinets, so they're not actually getting into the cabinets, and so you can't actually see any nesting or anything like that. But they're definitely like climbing up into the cabinet boxes and disappearing back there. So hopefully, like I said, I've set out traps. I've set out various food items just to see if I could just start enticing them and directing them around. Look, this just never used to be this way. It was when we first moved into this house. It was one day, my wife and we got home, and I think I'd eaten like a snack, and so there was a bowl with like some crackers in it that I just left on the counter. Came back, and the crackers were gone, but mouse poops were in there, and my wife just was like, "Oh no!" And she does not like mice, so it was a problem. And I said, "Don't worry, I'll catch them." Set up the traps and all of that. And she was upstairs watching a movie, and literally, I came up. I'd gone down into my basement to do something. Came upstairs. There's the mouse dead in the trap, freshly killed. Went and found my wife. Come see. Look, there he is. We caught him. I'm going to throw him out in the backyard, and we're done. And all the mice were caught. That's not the case. And I've definitely seen a large one, and I've definitely seen a small one. So babies have been had.
Okay.
So yeah. That's that though. And on my amusing note, I will say that my daughter had a swim meet. She's on a it's not the school, so it's a YMCA swim team, and they had a meet, and the meet was at Haverhill High School, and that is significant because when my daughter got out of the pool and came over to see us after one of her heats, I showed her a picture, and it was a teenager with long scraggly hair, and she goes, "Well, why are you showing this to me?" And I'm like, "That's Rob Zombie when he went here." And as far as I know, the class of 1983 graduated from the actual building that we were in. So my daughter was like, "Wait, actually here?" Yeah, actually here. It was kind of fun.
You know, there's a part of me that hopes his legal name is Robert Zombie, but I know that it's not.
No, his legal name is Rob Zombie. He has dropped his birth name was Robert Bartley Cummings, and he has dropped all of those for legally Rob Zombie.
Okay.
And so his wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, that is her actual name because she took the name of Rob Zombie.
Okay, better than I had hoped for.
Or as my dad calls him, Rob White Zombie.
No, White Zombie's a different band.
Oh, it was Rob Zombie's band.
What?
Yeah, Rob Zombie was the lead singer for White Zombie.
I don't know what I thought now.
Unless you're thinking like White Snake.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I just thought sort of like once Ozzy Osbourne left AC/DC and it was just Ozzy Osbourne with the understanding, parentheses, and his band. I thought it was just, Rob Zombie and his band.
Nope. Yeah. No. His first foray into music was with White Zombie, and then I think they had creative differences because when you start looking at like their first album, which I think was Feed the Gods, it was very just industrial and stripped down in the sound effect, and then by the time you get to Astro Creep 2000, he was thrown into a lot of like techno and synthetic elements into it, and I suspect that there was probably a schism between, all right, how much of this space music we gonna be playing and how much we gonna be just shredding, and so they broke up, or at least most of them broke up because he kept for Hellbilly Deluxe, he kept Mike Tempesta as his drummer, but then it was Rob Zombie, and then he essentially had full creative control at that point.
Okay, good luck turning this into an episode, Weer'd.
I'm gonna keep it all. I'm a big Rob Zombie fan.
Okay. I'm just saying, listeners, I warned you.
So let's talk some news. So we're recording this after the Tuesday election. The Monday after the Tuesday election, so it was almost a week ago, and without getting into any partisan politics whatsoever, pretty much gun rights lost in that election. If someone was anti-gun or if there was an anti-gun measure, I think pretty much it across the board did poorly. Or I forget which I said now, but you were there. You saw it happen. And so I just wanted to lead off on the something that, I mean, this is something that I think has pretty much happened in every race. It's just, or has happened in every race where gun control was a factor, is that gun control groups have outspent the Second Amendment groups in this election.
Yeah, in this particular election by 55 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what you can accomplish when you have a billionaire funding your legal what's-it.
Yeah. Well, actually, two billionaires, too, because actually Michael Bloomberg, but also George Soros has been throwing a lot of money at anti-2A things. So, yeah.
Great.
Yep. And, and so, though I will argue that in the past, I mean, we're gonna immediately jump forward into it to talk about Maine. Though this is in the Reload article that's in the show notes, it talks a lot about a lot about Maine as well. Is back in, what was it? That was 2016 when Bloomberg had a massive push, and pretty much every state that had a referendum system had a background check bill going through in the November elections, and Maine specifically got hammered by Bloomberg. Being a small state, it was pretty easy for him. He literally bought out all the ad space. So at no point in time could any of the Second Amendment groups in Maine actually put out counter messaging across the legacy media. And even then it went down, it was 60% against the background check. But in this case, there was a red flag law, and for a referendum that's actually going to be stacked on top of the yellow flag law that Maine already has, and I think it was like 80% going through. And I just want to say that 62%. Yeah, this. I'm ashamed of this, and I'm ashamed of this personally because, like, all of us in the Second Amendment have kind of failed on this one, because red flag laws are terrible. Like, even when you don't factor in the ex parte abuse that could be done through a red flag law. And again, I've known people who have had fraudulent red flag cases put against them, and it's miserable. It is months and months of just paperwork and pain in the butt just to essentially clear your name and get your guns back. But even when you factor that aside, everyone should know there is no mental health component in any of these laws. It doesn't matter. This Maine one or the Massachusetts one or any of the other states that have this, there is no mental health comparison. It is just cops show up and take guns away and then leave. And there's no situation that I can think where that actually makes things better. If someone is suicidal and now the police come in, take their property, and then leave, they're not going to feel better. They're not going to feel loved and cared for or important. And if somebody is a dangerous stalker and has leveled threats and things like that, and they come through and just take their guns away, do you think they're going to be happy, or do you think they're going to be mad? And do you think a mad stalker is better than a happy one? So it's where they're winning the zeitgeist right now on these. And then on top of this being Maine, this is all in reaction to the Lewiston shooting. And the Lewiston shooting, the killer had a yellow flag law, which is essentially just the red flag law where the police are requested and the police do a small investigation and decide whether or not they're going to act upon it. And they did act upon it, and they went to the killer's house. They knocked on his door. They saw his vehicle in the driveway, and he didn't answer the door. And so they said, well, I guess we'll just figure it out later. And by figure it out later, that was never. It doesn't work. And so, yeah, I'm frustrated by this. Not necessarily that it passed. It's a bad law, but it's not, mass confiscation of property. It's not, a concealed carry ban or some of the more brutal laws out there, but it's not good. And we should be better than this, and we should be smarter than this. And so I'm just going to urge everybody, if you can get a chance to talk about red flag laws to someone who's not a gun nut, see if you can. My mother-in-law called me that Monday and was like, "Oh yeah, there's what? Tell me about this. What is this red flag law?" And I'm like, "Oh, here's what it does. Wait, so it doesn't take the guns away, or it doesn't get them to see a doctor or something like that? Nope, just takes the guns away." And similar thing. I was talking to her about that Maine has a waiting period law as well. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, you go, you buy the gun, you pass the background check, and then you come back a week later. Well, are they going over your background during that week? No, they don't do anything. The gun just sits in the gun shop and you just sit at home. And that's really the trick behind gun laws, is that there's these laws are so stupid that people will make up stuff to try to make them make sense. And let's move into one more dumb thing. And this is also passing into this realm of, well, what's the big deal? So, well, first up, this isn't the United States. This is over in England. But a 49-year-old man has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for possessing a handwritten recipe for gunpowder. And so, first up, it appears that this guy, the police had it out for him. Has all sorts of criminal charges up against him already. And I guess he was a white supremacist. I'm trying to remember on the other charges against him. But either way, this guy was a pile of garbage. But the big factor is he had a recipe for gunpowder. He didn't make gunpowder. He didn't even have the stuff for gunpowder. He just had the written know-how of how to make it. And first up, I think, and we're talking black powder here too, not smokeless. And I thought like everybody knew what black powder was made of. Like I knew it was
saltpeter, charcoal, sulfur.
Yep. I knew it long before, like, what's saltpeter? I don't know.
Potassium nitrate.
Yes. Yep. But it's one of those, like, I was small enough when I first learned that I didn't even know what the heck saltpeter was. And it was a long time before I realized it was potassium nitrate. And, yeah, but like, I thought everybody knew that. And then, maybe it's a little bit more of noting on the, how did say the early colonists get, obviously charcoal is extremely easy to get your hands on, just burn wood. And then sulfur, you just need to find it. But how do they get the saltpeter? And, the knowledge of how to make a niter bed, of which I won't detail on this podcast, mostly because it's super nerdy and kind of gross. But that might be a little bit more of a deep cut of knowledge. But
I'm pretty sure you can harvest the potassium nitrate from bird droppings.
Yep. I think you're correct. Actually, I think bat guano, is exceptionally good for it.
Yep. And you can also get the sulfur from collecting and filtering urine. Oh. Because one of the reasons why urine is stinky is because it has sulfur in it.
That's that actually I hadn't heard that. I do know that the niter beds were utilizing both human and animal urine collected and allowed for the potassium nitrate to collect or to crystallize. But yeah, but either way, it's one of those. This law seems to be one of the. It could just be they're just looking for an excuse to lock the guy up, and there's not a plot behind this. But I'm not believing that. I can see this as, this guy is an absolute monster, and look, he's also got the recipe for gunpowder, so clearly he's up to no good. But once you get him put away, it's not like all the surrounding circumstances become part of the court precedent. So then it'll just be, the recipe for gunpowder is a perfectly reasonable thing to lock somebody up for. So
here's the thing. It's not just that they locked him up for it, but they locked him up for it under terrorism charges. Mm-hmm. Because apparently being able to make gunpowder is terroristic in some way. And so, obviously, England doesn't have the freedoms we have because, well, first of all, we have the First Amendment here, but there's also, we have also had our own problems, like with the code for the Liberator gun And we talked about that, I'm not sure how many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when a friend of ours took the code, published it as a book, thereby definitely making it a First Amendment issue if it wasn't already. And so just the fact that formerly Great Britain considers having knowledge of a technology that is, 6 centuries old at this point?
I mean, I'm looking back and I'm seeing like there was.
Because I mean, I'm pretty sure that we had muskets in like the 1400s.
Oh yeah, and
So-
some of the first gunpowder, like some of the first like quality gunpowder, is getting down to like the 1200s.
And so possessing a written record of this incredibly mature and ubiquitous technology is now considered terrorism. I don't have the words to describe how bad this is. But again, this is formerly Great Britain, where they are pathologically afraid of all sorts of things. But rape gangs are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did I say that out loud? Whoops. The other thing that I want to say, because Weer'd, you didn't quite believe me, but just some quick Googling, which could be correct, could be wrong, but apparently if you eat asparagus or onions or garlic, the body will convert that food into sulfur-containing chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
So, I find it funny in a very puerile sense that 2 out of the 3 components of gunpowder are made by excreting bodily waste.
It is one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just insane, especially when it's one of those like, you hear about, some of these various like terror attacks where people tried to do bombings and they didn't work out really great. And it's one of those like, were you guys not paying attention in high school chemistry class? Because like, I don't know about your textbook, but like mine had a whole unit on nitrating hydrocarbons. So to produce things like, like nitroglycerin and those sort of things, where it's one of those like, oh yeah, no, those nitrogen bonds, those make things go boom, and here's why. So it is absolutely crazy how Luddite this concept is. And again, my fear and definitely other people's fears are that this will be used. This is being used against a man with extensive criminal careers and is a very antisocial individual and not someone you would want to actually be making gunpowder. But again, that context is out the window when it comes to court precedents. It's just simply knowing how to make gunpowder is a terroristic threat. So, yep. So, yeah. So, moving on, we have, I've got a link to a video from Mr. Guns and Gear. He has gotten some, leaked images of some new, I think it was a Glock 19, the new Series V, pistol. So this is the redesign. Again, last week we talked about how, essentially Glock has discontinued the vast majority of their lineup. And
yeah, all but like 2 or 3.
Yeah. And I think some of the changes that he's noting in this video definitely seems to hearken towards they are engineering the gun so that it will not easily accept a Glock switch, though he noted that he may actually, since he has an SOT and has done, he has actually bought those fuel filters that you sometimes get advertised on various Google and Facebook groups, and actually converted them into suppressors because he legally can, and he may he does have a Glock switch, a legal Glock switch, and so he may see if he can modify a Glock to accept it to see how much work this is and how effective this is. Again, I don't think that it's possible to make it's very possible to make a gun that can't accept a Glock switch, that specific technology and design, but I think it is pretty much impossible to make a gun that can't be converted to full auto with some basic part swapping and some simple machining.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's just, all right, start the timer. How long until someone creates a, Model V Glock switch?
Yeah. So there's your interesting race. Is in one corner you have you have someone who has a new Glock Series V pistol and a Glock switch and some power and some basic power tools, and the other person has basic power tools and whatever they could buy in a 30-minute shopping spree at Home Depot. And one person's going to try to make a full auto Glock and the other person's going to make a Sten gun. Who wins?
I'm pretty sure the Sten gun will win.
The Sten gun has a heavy advantage. If you're not laughing at home, Google a Sten gun. You've probably never seen one. And when you see one, you're like, wait, that's a gun? That's a real gun? That was a gun that the British carried in World War II on purpose? Yeah.
Well, the reason that it looks so fugly is because with wartime rationing, they needed a cheap gun that they could crank out to give to soldiers. And this was the cheapest gun that was still safe to fire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fugly.
It is fugly. It is crude. It was not very good, but it worked. So yeah, and it is so crude that literally we joke about the 80% lowers and that sort of stuff is that, Home Depot sells 90% Sten guns. Yeah. So it's just a tubular frame submachine gun. Like literally a steel pipe could be a perfect start for a Sten gun receiver. And and going right on cue with exactly what we had pictured is that let's see, was it? I mean, it's all Bloomberg, but I think this might have been. This is. It's Everytown is trying to pressure Ruger. Because of course Ruger has the RXM pistol, and Miles reviewed it, and it is essentially a Glock, but it's a chassis gun, and so therefore it'll accept all the old Glock parts and things like that. And technically, if you've got a Glock switch, which in itself is a crime, don't have one unless you've got an SOT, and even then there's rules you got to follow. But it'll accept all of that, and so they're trying to pressure Ruger to do the exact same thing that Glock does, which I hope they tell them to go pound sand, because I don't think Glock did themselves any favors, and I hope Ruger doesn't do something equally as stupid.
Well, I think Ruger learned its lesson from last time.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's there is. You're talking about Bill Ruger?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of neat that old Bill wasn't in the ground for very long before suddenly they started popping out Glock clones and AR-15s.
Kind of like how once Roddenberry backed off from Star Trek, it got darker and better and gave us Deep Space Nine.
Oh, I had never put those two and two together, but again, I am a very fair weather Trekkie.
Let's just say, and I don't remember all the precise details anymore, but Roddenberry was very involved in the very first season of Next Gen. And he's the one you can thank for Wesley, because Wesley is literally Roddenberry's first name. Wesley Eugene Roddenberry. So draw your own conclusions there. But he backed off, I believe, for age and health reasons. And I don't remember if it was the second season or the third season where Riker grew the beard, but that has now become a terminology among fan circles. When a series grows the beard is when it matures and gets better and gets out of that awkward, we're not quite sure what the series is about, finding our feet thing. And so what I'm saying is that Deep Space Nine would not have been possible if Roddenberry's hand was still fully on the tiller. I don't remember if he had died by that point or not, but yeah. I told you I was scattered, folks.
Oh. So, speaking of space guns, Erin.
We pivot from phasers to lasers, and David's review of the Mantis TitanX. Fun fact, the Titan is the class of ship that Riker commands in the expanded universe.
Hi, and welcome to Gun Lovers and Other Strangers. I've long been a proponent of dry fire practice. However, as with any training, it's important to practice the right things and get good feedback. So in this segment, I'd like to talk about another tool to help us become more proficient, the new Mantis TitanX dry fire laser pistol. In my last segment, I talked about shooting fast. In this one, I'm going to focus more on considered operation. I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar with the phrase, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. This saying is often misunderstood or applied incorrectly. It does not mean slow is fast. The long form could be phrased as, do it slow until you can do it smoothly, then increase speed until you can do it fast just as well. No, it doesn't roll off the tongue as easily, but it does express the concept better. Stance, grip, sights, and trigger control are the four main fundamentals of accurate shooting. Practicing them takes time and attention. While live fire is more fun, it's also more expensive, not to mention requiring an appropriate setting. In comparison, dry fire training can be performed nearly anywhere at any time, though I don't recommend practicing in a public park. Looking around the market, there are some training options similar to the Mantis TitanX, but none of them offer all the features this product makes available. For example, there are laser dummy cartridges. These are placed in the chamber of an actual firearm, and when the trigger is pulled, a laser dot is emitted. They're relatively inexpensive and can be used in multiple firearms of the same caliber. However, many of them are not adjustable as far as lining up with the sights, and they offer only minimal feedback to the shooter. Next Level Training offers their SIRT, or Shot Indicating Resetting Trigger Pistol, which comes in a few form factors and also projects a laser dot when the trigger is pulled. It has a couple of different settings, and I've made good use of them in training classes. However, once again, user feedback is limited. Which brings us to the Mantis TitanX. Similar to the SIRT pistol, the TitanX comes in several form factors. The unit I received for testing and evaluation is modeled after the Glock 19. The TitanX is battery operated and can be charged with a common USB-C cable, one of which comes in the box. Also included is a small hex wrench for adjusting the windage and elevation settings of the laser emitter. This allows us to set the point of laser impact to coincide with the point of aim. Since the TitanX laser is compatible with a variety of electronic targets currently available on the market, this provides us enhanced feedback for accuracy-based training. The TitanX also has a Picatinny rail and Glock standard slide cut, enabling us to mount our preferred weapon light and pistol optic. Additional benefits for more realistic training. Finally, it comes with 2 weighted magazines for practicing reloading drills. The TitanX does also accept standard Glock magazines, though mine didn't drop free. This is not a knock against the TitanX, as many users have experienced this as a recurring issue with their Glocks and their magazines. In addition to an instruction card, it all comes packed in a handsome padded zipper case. Where the Mantis X differs from its competitors and really shines is the integration of the Mantis X shooting performance system. I talked about this product in my segment in episode 325 where I tested one of their rail-mounted X3 units. The TitanX utilizes the same app, which can connect to any Bluetooth-capable mobile device, and allows for all the same training options. The TitanX also removes the one major element that knocked a point off my review of the X3. No longer do I have to reset the hammer or striker when practicing multiple shot strings. As a bonus, with the addition of a suitable holster, the TitanX will also enable me to work on drills involving drawing from the holster. In addition to all the aspects of the TitanX I've mentioned, Mantis also has introduced their Laser Academy training kit. This is a collection of training aids including a laser cartridge, smart targets, tripods, and phone holders, as well as an access code to the Mantis Laser Academy app. I hope to get my hands on one of these kits to test soon. Even without purchasing full access to the Mantis Laser Academy, 4 training modes are available to try for free. Currently, the TitanX is only available in Glock 17, 19, and 45 form factors. However, I'm sure others will be offered soon. Now that I've covered the physical aspects of the TitanX, how does it do in use? I started my function test by running some basic drills using the Mantis app. I'd already downloaded it from my previous segment testing the X3 unit. Once the sights were properly adjusted and I paired the TitanX with my tablet, I hit the ground running. There was absolutely no learning curve utilizing the app with the TitanX. It was everything I liked about the X3 and more. I also had my wife try the TitanX with the shot timer drill under my guidance. She had no issues with the basic operation of the unit and found the lighter weight compared to a real firearm considerably more comfortable. The reduction was especially noticed when we tried drills with the weighted magazine removed. For a lightly built woman with limited hand and arm strength, this was a big plus and enabled her to run more drills before fatigue started setting in. She agreed the combination pistol and app are a useful training tool and pointed out the benefits for new shooters who might be more sensitive to recoil and muzzle blast. Also mentioning how it can help reduce any trepidation they might have about holding a real gun, even an unloaded one. In addition, she really appreciated the app's instant feedback and suggestions regarding potential causes of shooter inaccuracy. She found them very helpful, especially if she was doing any practice on her own. Overall, I give the new Mantis TitanX a 10 out of 10. Both as a trainer and a shooter, I see this as the best dry fire practice system currently on the market. Considering the list price is only $199, I expect them to become a part of most instructor-led training environments. I'll certainly be recommending them to my students and fellow instructors. Practice safely, practice often.
What we have here is the TitanX. It comes with a Mantis X integration built into this laser pistol.
That about wraps up this segment. If you have any questions for me or suggestions for future segments, or a comment on a past segment, please post them on the Assorted Calibers Podcast Facebook or MeWe pages, and Erin or Weer'd will make sure I see them. I'm also a contributor on the Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. Finally, I'm a published author, and books with my stories can be found on Amazon under the names Brena Bock and David Bock. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. I'm David, and this is Gun Lovers and Other Strangers.
Well, one really nice thing about having a training dummy is that you don't have to treat it like a real firearm, and you don't have to unload it or anything like that, and there's no risk of putting a hole in your wall when you think you're doing dry fire practice. Though the con is that, you know, things like using the laser bullets and that sort of stuff in your actual like carry gun or competition gun is that it's your actual carry gun or your actual competition gun.
I'm dense. Why is that bad?
Oh, it's not bad. It's the bad. That's the bad thing about having a dummy trainer is that it's not your actual gun.
I know I've talked about this several times, and at this point I don't even remember who makes it anymore, but I have a laser trainer of a Glock 19, and it does all of the things, and it's based off an airsoft chassis, and so, you know, you fill the magazine with green gas and it actually reciprocates, and it is as close as you can get to firing a gun without actually firing a gun. And it's really neat. And just like with David, I haven't had a chance to use it yet in demonstrations, but for the people who are really afraid, this is going to be the first step, because I can teach you how to use a gun, and there's no actual gun involved, so it shouldn't be scary. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're a professional instructor, get one, but just, if you are like a Blazing Sword volunteer, this would be a good thing to have. One thing that I always do when I instruct people, before I take them to the range, I visit them in a neutral location, or if they're comfortable, I go to their house, they come to mine, and I do the safety briefing, because it's so much easier in a calm house rather than at a range where everyone is firing and sometimes the student is flinching and can't hear you properly. And so that's where I go over, among other things, Cooper's 4 rules and how gun works and how you're supposed to stand. And I get all of that stuff out of the way so that when we go to the range, we can just concentrate on actually hitting the target. And so, just like you said, just like David said, this is something you can bring along where you can use it to teach, but you don't have to worry about muzzling people. And so they're really great. Get one.
I agree. And so, yeah, that's exciting. And David has said they haven't mentioned anything about what I have to do to give it back. So hopefully Mantis will continue to just go, yeah, just hold on to it. Now, I will say this is almost a bit of sweet irony. For whatever reason, the Twix, the Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, for whatever reason has decided to show me every vegan on Twitter and militant vegan. And I got no problem with you if you're vegan or vegetarian. I have a problem with the militant nature of it. But as kind of a little thumb in their eye, Tiny has sent us a segment on him making some summer sausage.
Hello all in ACP land, it's me Tiny with another installment of Deep Thoughts from the Land of Rocks and Cows. This last Saturday marks the start of the firearms deer season here in Minnesota, and with that came a tradition of one of my good friends that he makes summer sausage, venison sausage, and jerky out of the deer that he has left over from the year before. Saturday night I went over and helped him make some summer sausage. Now, making summer sausage takes some specialized tools and know-how, but nowadays, thanks to companies like Cabela's, Bass Pro, and Walton's, it is easier than ever to get into. What is summer sausage? It is a semi-dry, tangy, shelf-stable sausage you can see hanging in butcher shops. It's perfect for snacking, charcuterie boards, or just slicing up with sharp cheddar. For equipment, you'll need a meat grinder, large mixing bowl, and ideally a smoker. Venison is a very lean meat, and to make good summer sausage from it, you need to mix in some pork shoulder. We usually do 1 pound of pork to 4 pounds of venison. If you are doing a fancy summer sausage with cheese in it, you need some special made cheese that won't melt at 350 degrees. You start by cutting your venison and pork fat into chunks that'll fit through your grinder and keeping everything cold. I can't stress that enough. Pop your meat into the freezer for about 30 minutes before grinding and even chill your grinder parts. Cold meat grinds cleaner and creates better texture. Grind everything through a medium plate about 3/8 inch. You want some texture, not a paste. In the large bowl, combine all your spices of preference with the ground meat. Here's the key, you need to mix this thoroughly. And I mean work it. Use your hands for a good 3 to 4 minutes until the mixture becomes sticky and starts to bind together. This develops protein bonds that give your summer sausage a characteristic snap. Once mixed, cover your bowl and refrigerate for at least 24 hours. This curing time is essential. It allows the cure to penetrate the meat and develop flavor. I usually let mine go for a good 48 hours. After curing, it's time to stuff. Soak your fibrous casings in warm water for about 30 minutes to make them pliable. Stuff your mixture into the sausage casings using a stuffer or alternatively a attachment for your meat grinder that allows you to stuff them into the casings. Tie off the ends securely. Here's a pro tip. prick any visible air bubbles with a sterilized needle. Air pockets can cause issues during cooking and storage. Now comes to cooking. You have a couple options here. If you have a smoker, smoke your sausages at 180 degrees until the internal temperature hits 160. This usually takes 6 to 8 hours. Add wood chips for the first few hours if you want extra smoke flavor. The next step separates the amateurs from the pros. As soon as your sausage hits 160 internal, immediately plunge them into an ice bath for about 10 to 15 minutes. This stops the cooking process and prevents the fat from separating and pooling inside the casing, which creates that undesirable greasy texture. Pat your sausages dry and then hang them at room temperature for 2 to 3 hours to bloom and develop that characteristic dry exterior. You can then wrap them in butcher paper and refrigerate, and they'll keep for several weeks in the fridge, or you can vacuum seal them and freeze them for up to a year. Couple final thoughts. Do not skip the pork fat. Venison is very lean, and without added fat, your sausage will be dry and crumbly. Second, the 24-hour cure time isn't optional. It's a food safety issue. The curing salt needs time to work. And finally, invest in a good instant read thermometer. Guessing temperatures with food is a good recipe for disaster. If you have any thoughts or comments on this segment or past segments, post them in the ACP Facebook group, and Erin or Weer'd can get them to me. Please be kind to each other with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. You never know what may be your last conversation with a loved one.
Just eat it. Just eat it. Just eat it. Just eat it. Oh!
So Tiny didn't mention it, but the reason why it's called summer sausage is that the OG summer sausage was a lacto-fermented sausage, and so therefore it was essentially shelf-stable and could be consumed in the summer months without the need of refrigeration. It's kind of interesting to think back to like how much stuff in our culture started off as we didn't have refrigeration, so this is what we did, and then people are like, yeah, and I like that. Like, people just make pickles to make pickles, as opposed to, no, this is how we keep the cucumbers from going bad.
So what is lacto-fermentation?
That is, it's very similar to the whole talk that I did on sourdough over at Blue Collar Prepping. It is lactobacillus is allowed to hang out amongst the meat, and it produces lactic acid, and the lactic acid is essentially a bioweapon, and it keeps other more dangerous bacteria and also, larger critters and mold and fungi from taking hold. And so it essentially preserves the meat. A lot of cases for essentially for sourdough, you're using it in the mixture with the alcohol produced by the yeast. But in a lot of the fermented meats and pickles and things like that, it's evidently lactobacillus is extremely tolerant of salt. So that's why pickles are salty, is you salt the water heavily, and that gives a leg up on the lactobacillus to go through. So I actually talked to Tiny. I said, you should see if you guys could do a fermented sausage as well, just for the experiment of it. And one thing that actually happens with a lot of these sausages that are especially like salamis is they get moldy, and that's actually a good thing because the mold is penicillium, and that's where we get penicillin from. It's an antibiotic, right? It produces antibiotic chemicals, and that's the reason why there's various dry cured meats are allowed to get moldy, and you get the blue veins in your blue cheeses and things like that is all penicillium, and we've co-evolved with them. We kind of have a symbiotic relationship. Oh, and just one more, because everybody loves bacon, but bacon was created just to make a shelf stable meat, and early bacon was heavily salted and heavily smoked. And actually, Colonial Williamsburg, they actually had like slabs of bacon hanging in various like of the various kitchens around Colonial Williamsburg, and it's one of those like it looks like a prop because it's just all dry and kind of shiny, but essentially, yeah, they would use smoke and a lot of salt, and then also black pepper will repel a lot of animals and things like flies and things like that, and it can just sit out and be shelf stable. Once you cut into it, you have to eat it quick. But yeah, no, there was a lot of stuff that things that we would normally only keep in the refrigerator that totally were consumed at room temperature in the days before refrigeration.
Mayonnaise?
I don't know about mayonnaise.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know why I thought my brain is in a dark place. It may be eaten by a grue.
Cautious. Take this light.
Yeah.
Do you know who hopefully is less scatterbrained than us?
I don't know, Weer'd. Who?
I hope it's our listeners, though I have to imagine that there are some that are equally as afflicted with the ADHD as us, Erin.
I didn't used to be like this, I promise.
Yeah, well, it's a thing. You have a puppy. But we got to thank each and every one of our listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for humoring us. But we got to give a very special thanks to all our supporters on Patreon. So we're on patron, go to patreon.com/Assorted Calibers podcast to sign up. Patrons get an early release of the podcast. Plus, we got bonus content over there. You can get yourself the ACP blooper reels, the ACP film track, and the ACP mag dump.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts because number go up is good. Subscribe to us on the platform of your choice and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I've got a blog. It's weerdworld.com. That's weerdworld.com. And hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me at linktree/Erin Paulette. That's linktree.e/Erin Paulette, all one word. Unless, of course, I don't know, forget to breathe or something. I don't know how you function, Weer'd. I really don't.
Lots of caffeine. And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
He's functional ADHD, and tonight I am far from functional. Our coping ability, I guess, is assorted, and so is our podcast. Look, I don't know. I'm just here. Good night.
Good night, everyone.